Modern Horizons 2 isn't available in paper yet, it hasn't been released, and some people haven't opened they haven't cracked a single booster pack of Modern Horizons 2, or played with any of the cards in it. In spite of this though, we've already got spoilers for the next set, for Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Because of course we have. But constant preview hype aside, hashtag perpetual hype, I feel pretty good about Magic right now. I'm enjoying Magic a lot. Modern Horizons 2 is currently looking like it might end up being one of my favourite sets of all time. But enough of that. You came here to hear about Flumphs, didn't you? The next Magic set, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, will be replacing this year's core set and will be landing in store shelves on July 23rd, whilst cards will be available on MTGO on July the 8th. This means that Modern and Legacy in their current guise, where they've got Modern Horizons cards affecting them without anything from the new set, that will last for a total of 35 days. That's a very short period of time. It's almost like life and time moves fast, but Magic moves faster. I'm Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet, the most milkable man in esports entertainment, and today we're going to talk about D&D previews, especially, and in particular, that adorable little jellyfish. So we got another couple previews last week, a Flumph and a Tasha's Hideous Laughter, and whilst Tasha's is probably the most interesting or powerful of the two for 60 card constructed, potentially being an actual bomb for mill decks in multiple formats, let's be real, the Flumph is much, much weirder. It's a jellyfish with an adorable little face, it's in white and it draws cards. That's a lot to unpack. But first, what is a Flumph in the context of Dungeons & Dragons? What is this creature that's so iconic that it somehow made its way across into another game? It's one of the cards they chose from Dungeons & Dragons to represent Dungeons & Dragons in Magic the Gathering. Well, I reached out to my longtime Dungeon Master and close friend Rob the White Robert to give us a bit of D&D context.
Flumphs are benevolent, intelligent jellyfish that float around in the Underdark and are one of the weirdest creatures in D&D. They date all the way back to 1st edition, appearing first in the Fiend Folio, and popping up in every edition of D&D, where they're generally classified as small, lawful good aberrations. Flumphs have saucer-sized bodies with 2 eye stalks on top and tentacles underneath. Their bodies are hollow, with a small circle in the centre of the top side, which is where their name comes from. For you see, Flumphs get around thanks to an innate anti-gravity field, which allows them to float. They propel air through their hollow bodies to move around. This produces a rubbery, whistling sound like a palpitating sphincter. So, farting gently through the Underdark, Flumphs feed on psionic energy and can be found near strong sources such as Mind Flayer enclaves. But, due to their strong telepathic nature, Flumphs are very sensitive to evil thoughts and feel the need to share them as quickly as possible with any good-lined creatures they find in order to wash these thoughts away and be pure once more.
My wife thought that the Flumph is adorable, and she liked these models when she saw them in the OGS, so I couldn't help but pick them up. These are the WizKids models from their D&D range. They also make Magic models too. I've done a video on painting RAKDOS. Anyway, I painted up the Flumphs. I speed painted them. A little bit of airbrushing, a little bit of dry brushing, a little bit of highlighting, and done. This is how they looked. This is post airbrush, and this is the finished product. This is not a sponsored bit or anything, by the way. WizKids have sent me models in the past. I just wanted to pick these up because I fucking love models, I love painting, I love Magic, I love D&D, so it made sense to bring it all together in a video. It just makes me happy and warm on the inside. Also, whilst looking for old stuff on Flumphs and their origins and their early days in D&D, I came across an issue of Dragon magazine from 1989, the year of the most important birth in the history of the world. Me. Dragon magazine issue 150 had a little comic in it about Flumphs. It said you can use them as a parasol, you can use them to fashion a hat, a spare wheel, or finally showing us that a Flumph is being cooked lightly tastes like chicken. I assume this is some kind of bard. This is the most chaotic evil act put into picture form I have ever seen. Honestly, I think this is worse than punching babies. This is like negative 100 karma. Why would you do a Flumph like that? So Flumphs are highly intelligent creatures that are psychic, and according to the 5th Ed Monster Manual, organise themselves into communities with no actual leadership structure because they all contribute towards their society. They're basically bloody commies. They feed on inherently evil thoughts and then share the information, they offload the knowledge that they've gained to allies and people they sense to be good. So how are we going to see that implemented mechanically in a game like Magic the Gathering? Well, we have a 2-mana, 0/4 defender with flying, so it's not a very aggressive creature. It's also, so far, so very, very white. However, when the Flumph is dealt damage, you and target opponent each draws a card. Say what? So this card is going to be bizarro in Limited. And it's going to be weird in 60-card Constructed too, because usually you'll be blocking with it, which means your opponent's going to be able to use the card more often than not before you will that they draw, because in a 1v1 game you have to target your opponent. So they hit your Flumph, you both draw a card, but in their second main phase they can cast creatures, play lands, and do sorcery speed stuff that they've drawn. If you draw instant speed answers, then obviously that's pretty good, but yeah, it's not going to be great in a one-on-one scenario. Interestingly though, it doesn't say combat damage. You could ping this with some direct damage to draw a card, and obviously an opponent would draw a card too. If you've got a repeatable source of this, some sort of recurring damage engine, it's repeatable card draw in white. In Commander though, this gets super interesting. In a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Also, I'm a jellyfish. People can attack into you each turn and you block on the agreement that you're going to draw a card and they're going to draw a card. At a table of individuals who either are incredibly irresponsible or have no idea how to win a game of Magic, you can draw 3 cards a turn rotation. Flumph is also interesting in the fact that this draw is in white, something we rarely see, and we know that Wizards are working on hard at addressing the issue and implementing fixes to the fact that white really struggles to draw cards or generate card advantage in general, especially in Commander. I quite like this idea that it draws not only on combat damage, and it draws for you and a target opponent. The fact that it isn't each opponent makes the card interesting. Firstly, there's the political element of not letting every player draw like a lot of group hug spells do, instead of picking someone to draw that card. That's a political element in Commander, but thematically, a Flumph will share its knowledge with people it deems or understands to be good, that it can sense is good, aligned. So, thematically, if you're not sharing with player A but only player B and C, it's kind of like the Flumph is detecting that player A is evil and player B and C are worthy or good. It's also interesting to say that we're focusing on Flumph here and good and evil alignments and stuff and inherently evil mind flayers, when I thought Wizards were going away from that a little bit with D&D, but let's not get bogged down with that. It's a shame that the other mechanical part of this card in D&D, which is albeit less interesting but without a doubt funnier if you're 3 years old or a man-child like me, isn't present. You see, as Rob pointed out, these things fart around the landscape, and they even fart noxious gases and liquids as part of their defensive suite if they come under attack. In the 5th Ed Monster Manual, they squirt enemies with a liquid that poisons them for up to 4 hours. And whilst this isn't present on the card mechanically, I will settle for the toilet humour of the Flumph facing the camera, looking distressed, and squeezing one out in the face of this frustrated orc. This might be the first example in Magic the Gathering's history of a card art depicting someone getting sharted on. So what do you think of my speedy paint job? What do you think of the card? Are you looking forward to the D&D the set, or does the inclusion of D&D intellectual property fill you with unwarranted pissy rage? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you like this kind of spoiler preview roundup video and you want to see more of this for the D&D set especially, where there's going to be potentially model tie-ins and book tie-ins and data sheets and stuff, let me know in the comment section below. If this is popular enough, I'll do more of them. And hopefully if Wizards give me a cool preview card, I can perhaps, do a similar video like this for that. I do need an excuse to paint like an ancient dragon or a beholder. I've been Vince. Smash that like button, don't forget to subscribe and ring my bell. In the meantime, be good to one another and I'll see you in the next video. Ta-ta for now.